Keys to the Shop podcast is brought to you by Keyholder Coaching Groups, a peer-to-peer coffee shop owner mentorship group hosted by myself, Chris DeFirio. It is a community all about solutions, insights, encouragement, and accountability for coffee shop owners. And we are accepting new applications for 2024 of the groups launching in March. Go ahead and reach out to Chris at keystotheshop.com for more information, or check the show notes for the link to apply to the Keyholder Coaching Groups today. This is Keys to the Shop, Founder Friday edition. Today we're talking with Kymme Williams-Davis, owner of Bushwick Grind Cafe in Brooklyn, New York. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFirio. I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. So, outfitting yourself with the best coffee equipment is one of the main concerns that we have when we're running a coffee shop, whether you're just starting out or you have a coffee shop and you want to upgrade to other equipment because you've experienced maybe some lack in that equipment that you started with. You want to make sure you're making the right decision. It makes great coffee, that you can use it, it's user-friendly, but more than that, that the people behind it have the same idea in mind. That's why I love the Ground Control brewer, and the original Cyclops brewer from Ground Control has just taken the world by storm. It's completely flipped what we can do with batch brew coffee on its head, and in all the good ways, right? So it's elevated quality of coffee, but the SCA award-winning technology allows you to create batch diced lattes, batch cold brew in record time, increasing the efficiency of your coffee bar enormously, and it looks amazing. Their new generation of machine is just so stunning, and it's actually smaller with a greater output for you to make those batch diced lattes and cold brew concentrates that really help with the different streams of income for your business. Go to groundcontrol.coffee to learn more about this equipment. I really believe that this company and this product has done so much good for the coffee industry and is continuing to do so. If you're looking to level up your game in coffee, go ahead and check out groundcontrol.coffee. Now, a lot of you know I'm involved in latte art, have been for quite a long time, and one of the things that has always been a challenge for people is making latte art with plant-based beverages. Pacific is one of those companies that took that challenge on head on. Their plant-based performance beverages are designed for baristas and tested by baristas before they reach the market, and that's why so many people love using them in their shop, because it does stand up to the heat from steaming. It does make great texture for latte art in your beverages, and it also, more importantly maybe, balances with the taste of your coffee, which is really important, because ultimately when the cap is on the cup, yeah, it's great that there's a design on it, but we want this to taste good, to feel good, and that's what they deliver. So go to pacificfoodservice.com and check them out, get samples, and try it for yourself. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages for your customers, I think you should be using the Barista series from Pacific. Okay, everybody. Well, today we have the pleasure of talking to somebody who has been holding it down in Brooklyn for quite a long time, and somebody who I believe is such a great example of the kind of person an owner needs to be in the coffee industry. We're talking with Kymme Williams-Davis, who is the founder of Bushwick Grind Cafe in Brooklyn, New York. Now, Kymme is a technologist with over 30 years in the IT sector. She is employed with Weight Watchers International for 25 years, currently in the role of Principal Technology Project Manager, and is a graduate of Hofstra University School of Business. Kymme is the owner of Bushwick Grind, a specialty coffee shop that she established in 2015. And here in the cafe, she hosts the 2 Fish, 5 Loaves community fridge, which provides hundreds of pounds of free food to local residents. Kymme is a distance runner, participates in many endurance races, including Spartan races, bike tours, and road runner races. And the fact that she does this all at the same time is just astounding. She has unbridled energy and a passion for doing new things and exploring the possibilities of community. And this is what drives her And you'll find this out in the conversation that she is driven to take on challenges that ultimately end up nourishing people and providing solutions for people, people-forward solutions, whether that's setting up a coffee shop to provide community, doing these community fridges and increasing the health and nourishment of the food that they offer at Bushwick Grind, and all the networking and mentorship work that she's doing as a result of becoming kind of an icon in the world of entrepreneurship. Just some of Kymme's accolades include being the winner of the 2022 HEINZ Black Kitchen Cast Iron Trophy, winner of the Brooklyn Cornerstone Business of the Year, NAACP Be Good DoorDash grant recipient, has been featured on NBC with Stephen Rule, News Channel 12, and BBC World News. And some of her catering clients include Nike, JP Morgan Chase, Hugo Boss, and the city of New York. So in this conversation with Kymme, we get to hear the whole story of how she founded the cafe, how she found coffee to begin with, what it's taken to establish and grow this business with its 5 different verticals of income, including things like just the regular cafe traffic and catering, food and things like that, the community fridge, and the why behind what she does and what drives her. I think you're going to find this really inspiring because Kymme brings this refreshing perspective to the way that she views managing people, the way that she views community, and her role to facilitate making a difference in those relationships. And so I'm really pleased to present this to you today. Here now is my conversation with the founder of Bushwick Grind Cafe, Kymme Williams Davis. All right, Kymme, welcome to Keys to the Shop. How are you?
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. It's a sunny day in February in Brooklyn, New York. That's crazy. It should be 2 degrees, but it's like 55 today. I'll take it.
Yeah, take it. Yeah, it's sunny here in Kentucky too, but that's kind of normal sometimes here, a little more south of you. But so good to have you on the show. You and I have communicated over the years here and there. The coffee community in New York is a pretty tight community, so we know similar people. And you've been holding it down as a pillar, an entrepreneur in coffee for quite a long time now with Bushwick Grind. And your reputation precedes you. So this is kind of an honor to get to hear your story on Founder Friday. So thank you for being on the show. Tell me a little bit about how you became a part of a coffee community, which is a kind of a weird phrase to say, like I'm in a coffee community. To the outside world, it sounds like, oh, what? Is that a cult? Like
Maybe.
But coffee is now what you do with your coffee shop and everything. So tell us the story of how Kymme got into this industry.
Yeah, and I'm humbled by your words, the whole holding it down and all of that thing. So we do our best. So thank you. But yeah, back in 12, 14, I kind of took a pilgrimage to Portland, Oregon, and fell in love with the science of coffee, did some education there with Bellissimo Coffee, and took a lot of time just walking the streets. And my last trip there was the day that we became legal in Portland. So there was this big park and it was having a smoke out. And I was like, I feel a part of what's going on. Like everyone, and the thing that got me too is everyone from the taxi cab driver to everyone was immersed in the coffee culture. And I just thought how amazingly dope that was, how saturated the experience of coffee was in that city. So I, just really fell in love with the science of coffee, thought I could try my hand in doing it the same, doing it here in Brooklyn. So took that knowledge, all those cafes, beautiful cafes that I visited. I went to some throwdowns also while I was in Portland, and it just really sparked something in me that I thought I would love to be a part of more. Also just learning that most of the coffee in the world that we drink are from Black and brown countries, and the very manual effort that goes into sourcing coffee, producing coffee, the percentage of women and people of color from seed to cup are actually involved in the process. I thought, why not? We definitely could participation. So that took a couple of years. And in 2015, I eventually found the space. Wasn't the space I wanted, circled around a few times, but because I didn't have the resume that showed a wealth of experience in the retail space, people weren't as willing to rent to me as they would now. So I found a small little one-bedroom apartment. It was a typical Brooklyn row apartment and converted that from a residential space to a commercial space, about 500 square feet. And we've been here ever since.
Wow. So you made it happen. But you were out in Portland and you got involved in the science of coffee. But before that, you had to have had a reason to go pursue coffee at all. I mean, unless it was always a part of your life and it was just a natural thing for you to be in Portland. But the genesis for even wanting to explore coffee as a craft is a big part of what you're doing, like why you're doing what you're doing. What was before coffee that made you look to coffee?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was a coffee drinker. But other than that, no. What my son, this is a cute little story that kind of goes with the evolution of how we got here. I had a son who was in middle school at the time. He's now like 23 years old. And we had a building that we owned in Brooklyn, New York, and we lived in Long Island, the suburbs of the city. And he was maturing into high school. And he really, really wanted to go to this one particular high school in the city. It was an impossible school to get into. They had 14,000 applicants, 300 seats. We told him, if you get in, we'll move to Brooklyn, the whole family, and we'll support you for 4 years. We thought it would be only 4 years that we would be here. And somehow the boy got in. My husband and I joked all the time. It was like, oh, was he? It was such an empty gesture. We didn't think, like the numbers were so stacked against him. So once we got here, we just saw like the rapid gentrification. We had our space for over 20 years. We never intended to live in it. We always rented it. And we would come out for some time and spend some time with our tenants, but we never really spent a considerable amount of time. And we started to see what we knew was going to be a footprint change of our community. And we really wanted to participate, not only just as homeowners, but as business owners. So we knew we wanted to open up a business, but didn't quite know what. We thought maybe a daycare center. We thought some other things that I had. At that time, I used to be a runner. I still am. What I'm saying, used to be. I'm a distance runner. I do a lot of half marathons. So just a great way to know your community is to run through it. So I would run on these long runs and I would stick my little notebook in my pocket because I would be inspired by different businesses that I could take back and brainstorm with my husband. And I would stop sometimes and go in Little Skips that's owned by the Linda Thatch. And I would sit in there for a couple of hours and I would watch her particularly. So I loved the community. I loved the space. I loved, of course, specialty coffee, what they were offering. And I would be jotting down ideas. Oh, they, do the pros and the cons and look up the costs and things like that. But then she would like always catch my attention. And I'm just like, what, And I would see her talking to the staff. I would see her talking to the customers. I would see her running up and down with boxes. And it just happened again and again. And I just was like, I need to know more about what it is she's doing and what this is. And fast forward, she is like one of my dearest friends. I think I stalked her for 10 years. She took time and sat with me and I forced her to be my mentor. I don't know. Now, because we're good friends, she'll probably say she liked it. But back then, I know she thought it was weird. But that really started the spark. I didn't know it was going to be coffee. And then the journey started. So I went back to my husband and I was like, oh, a coffee shop. Like, what do you think? So when we first opened in 2015, we were a coffee and pastry only. Again, and this was after I did some training. I volunteered at other coffee shops and kind of worked there for a while. Some people who are really like in the game now, like helped me out along the way, so many names, but really just kind of immersed myself and just had the audacity to think I can do it. And there was some other like really deep-seated community reasons why I wanted to do it. Things like coming from Long Island, from the suburbs, when people came to your house, when you came to visit, you could hang out in your backyard and you let people in. Moving to Brooklyn, like everyone hung out, which is really, really cool. It was really dope. Like you have stoop conversations. People come over and you see, and you sit on a stoop and you talk. Or, sometimes it's not people that you really want in your living room. You might want to sit and have the conversation, but you don't want to let in. So like everybody's just, kind of hanging out and chatting on the corner or on the steps in front of their homes. So I thought it would be a great idea, not only just to have a business where coffee was the product, but also have a space where a more diverse group of people would feel welcomed, feel comfortable, and be able to really cultivate a community like I saw Linda do. That's what I was watching her do. That's what really caught my attention, having her cultivate what for her was that community. And we can do that with another group of people, also in this neighborhood that I thought really, really deserved it.
How do you cultivate community? Kind of a loaded question, because there are schools, there are courses in coffee, and you can buy the machines and you have coffee and pastries, but you've been to places where it doesn't feel exactly welcoming, but they still have all the same stuff. The menu might even be exactly the same. So it can't be that. How did you go about getting that community feel? And what did you, at least what did you believe it was? And how did you start going down the path of using your shop to achieve that?
Yeah, it's been such a journey. It's funny because I say to the team all the time that our product is food and beverage, but at the end of the day, this company, this business, is a people business. Uber is their product is cars and rides, but at the end of the day, they're a tech firm. Like, at the core of what we do. And I think being present and remembering always that we are a people company makes a difference. And people both sides of the counter, right? We kind of a lot of times joke around and call it counter therapy. I know a lot of people do, but not just for staff, but also for everyone who comes in. And it's really like cultivating the moments and enjoying the moments, which have been so many guests coming in, understanding that everyone who comes through the door is a guest and should be treated as such, having the right folks on the team. One of the things that I'm really proud of is when we first opened, being kind of a novice and kind of figuring everything out from soup to nuts, we did just cold interviews. And everyone that we hired from the first day that we opened stayed up until almost COVID. And everyone who left did for phenomenal reasons. And funny enough, three of our staff members had babies 3 days of each other. It was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wow.
But cultivating a relationship back of the house, behind the counter with the team that worked there, and being on the same page of how we handle our guests, how we strive to improve someone's day, strive to be mindful and intentional how we show up is how you cultivate community and have a common goal. One of the evolutions that happened as we were going, so the first year, like I said, we were coffee and pastries only. And I was on this really, really stupid, now looking back, kick of, we're going to be purists. We're not going to have any simple syrups. We're not going to have any, we're just going to have, like a macchiato is going to be a macchiato. And we're, I had all of those things that I was like freshly off the boat trained on. And it just was not a practical idea, especially in the area that I'm in. But also, I mentioned being a runner. I was also on a health journey at the time as well. I haven't eaten meat since I was like 15 years old. I'm like in my 50s now. So a long time, but I stopped eating dairy. I was really doubling down on my health and trying to become much healthier and be controlling what I ate. And I would come to the shop and for like 18-hour days sometimes, because, you always hang out. There was just nothing that I could eat. There's nothing but a sea of fast food restaurants in this area. Brooklyn is a very densely populated area. So you can think from a 3-mile radius, if there's just nothing but a sea of food. At one point, there was like a Greek restaurant that I can maybe go and get some like steamed vegetables from, but that closed and turned into a Popeyes. And it's not that anything is wrong with it. I just thought it should be options, right? Like we should have options so we can eat more healthily. And so my husband and I thought it'd be our responsibility. So one day we was installing our cameras, our security system, and the person who was installing our security system, I guess, heard me grumbling and complaining one day, and he was like, I really want to be a cook. I'm really interested. I hear you talking. Like, if you guys do that, like, can I be your cook? And he was phenomenal. So we brought him on. His name is Rob. He has since gone on and become a New York City master chef. He does huge jobs, Victoria's Secret runway shows and Fashion Week and the mayor's office, all of those things. But he had the personality, the skill, and he just helped us. So that was a game changer for us, him bringing food on. And then we were just very intentional. We delivered our menu, tried to in a very intentional way. We started to we're not a health food restaurant, we're not a vegan restaurant, but we tried to partner with high integrity vendors where there's some visibility, with the dairy, the milks, the eggs, the oil. We know where we're getting that from, and source. We decide who we hire, who we work with B2B relationships we have. So we have a lot of local relationships. It also brought us to this journey of food insecurity, of fighting against food insecurity. We host a community fridge now, 2 Fish 5 Loaves. It's been about 3 or 4 years we've been hosting that, and that's a whole initiative on its own. But kind of going through that journey of people and place and finding out what the community needs, what the community wants, and answering to that.
It strikes me that your story is kind of the epitome of the phrase bloom where planted. You're being fruitful in this place. You're in Brooklyn, you're there, you said there's a need. We're going to do it. We're going to open this coffee shop. We're going to provide healthier options for people. We're going to partner with organizations to do that. And that's really awesome. And a part of me is wondering if your history of competition, distance running, I only have I was like in high school when I did cross country, but it's hard. And there's a point at which in the distance running, you're like, oh man, there's still a little bit of this to go, no matter how seasoned you are. So I wonder if some of that is playing out in how tenacious you've been and in how readily you have agreed to enter into something that you know is going to be a challenge, but maybe you have a premonition that you can go the distance.
Yeah, I think so. I also like do Spartan races. I haven't done one since COVID, but I did those a lot back in the day, and do the 5 bowl bike tours and all the things. So I think that spirit of competition, or just leaning into that, which you might fear a little bit, plays into my psyche. The other thing is, the whole time I've been doing this, I've been working full time. So I'm a technologist by trade. So I've been in the tech industry for over 30 years, working for firm for over 25. So nine, almost 8.5 of these years of running Bushwick Grind, I've also worked full time, as well as my husband worked, full time. So that also goes into the spirit of, how much can you do, and biting off, and just kind of being a little audacious with planning, and doing the things that folks say is not necessarily possible. Like, you can't have a full-time job and run a restaurant and do, all these endurance races and other things. But I like a good challenge. Thank God I like a good challenge, because now is probably the most challenging time it's been running the cafe since we've opened. But, when you have a very strong why, it makes you show up. During COVID, COVID in New York was crazy. It was just unbelievable. And we literally closed for 9 months, still made revenue. We pivoted and had all these great ideas. We had some small home-based businesses who didn't have any access to any funding, but they couldn't do their artists and fleas and go out and vend. We had them pop up in our space while we couldn't sell food, when the city shut down and wouldn't allow any inside dining or any food at all. There was a point in New York where there was a hardcore shutdown. So, we were able to leverage our space for different things. That's when we got very, very heavily involved with the fight against food insecurity. We started partnering with some community chefs who we allowed them to use our space to make meals here and distribute them to community fridges. Also, there was just hundreds of people. It was called Occupy City Hall, where hundreds of people were protesting by sleeping at City Hall for weeks, who was protesting against the George Floyd massacre. And these organizers thought to feed them, and they wanted to feed them healthier food. So they came to us and they asked, which I thought was going to be a donation. They had no parts of it. And they ordered from us every day while they were there until they were evacuated. So we were able to, really build these really strong relationships with community organizers, mutual aid, and get heavily involved with the community fridges.
So you leaned into relationships, both existing and opportunities for new ones, when it was the hardest and maybe the most tempting to isolate or just call it quits because you had a full-time job, that you could have done that, I suppose. or not. It's a mystery actually to me, and I want to ask you, like, because I didn't know this before this interview, that you are a technologist and this is what you do as well, because most people are like, well, I just run my coffee shop, and doing all of this at the same time is pretty harrowing. And I'm curious how you managed to do it. And I mean it like, I'm interested in hearing about the planning. You mentioned planning, structure. I imagine there's a lot of structure that goes into making that happen so you can do all of that.
Yeah, it feels like it always could be more structure, but that really is it. The systems and processes that were in place. So I would come in early in the mornings, make sure everyone was in, myself and my husband, and I would taste coffee. I don't have to do that now, but at the time I would taste coffee. I trusted my palate more than anybody else's. I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
But but that was a routine. Come in and then hop on the train and headed to the office in Chelsea, Manhattan. And then after work, I would come back to the shop during closing shift. Again, make sure everyone was safe and everything was locked up, and that we had our plan for the day. And again, having the same staff for 4 years, like kudos to them. Like you can have system and processes into place, but to have the same people day in, day out for a long period of time actually is the key to it. So, once we came back from COVID and we had to kind of start over because we were closed for 9 months. We had to start over with new staff. It was a bit, bumpy to get back into that routine, and really, had to break out the barista Bible, the barista manual, and update. And, everything was it wasn't so much intuition. It had to be either documented or discussed out. But don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to sing my praises. It definitely gets bumpy. It definitely gets to the point where, it may feel a little stressed. I always joke that God gives me more days, give me 8 days a week and everybody else 7. I have no idea how the time gets stretched for me, but it does. We also have a pretty comprehensive catering program. So we are MWBE certified, which is minority women owned business certified. So the city of New York has to spend some of their budgets with MWBE firms. We also get to bid on contracts. And we're also DOE, with Department of Education certified. So we cater to a lot of schools. During COVID, we got a contract with the city of New York. We were hired literally by the Department of Health. So the Department of Health was our client.
Wow. The tables turn.
So every day, exactly, from January through July of that year, 2021, we catered 300 meals a day for all the vaccine sites. And we did that for the Department of Health because they were managing the vaccine sites at the time. We've gone on to been really, really fortunate to have amazing catering clients. We've catered the World Trade Center, which was phenomenal. It was such an experience for me. We catered for Mayor Adams in Gracie Mansion. We've catered for Adidas have hired us to cater the Rucker All-Star game, which was a high point for me because growing up, hearing about Rucker, the basketball games at Rucker Park was amazing. And Adidas bought the staff T-shirts and sneakers just to cater that one day. It was phenomenal. But, we've gone on to be able to have a nice lineup. So when foot traffic is slower and a cafe is not doing well, we have those other verticals. Our business actually have like 5 verticals. So the cafe is one, catering is another. Before COVID, the cafe was about 60% of our revenue. It has since changed. Now it's now about 40%, and catering has gone up as a higher. And then we have our retail wall, which is another vertical stream. And I mentioned the pop-ups where folks can come in here and sell their products. And then we also do some off-site. We have another location that I partner with that we do on Saturdays and Sundays. We do brunches. So that's another vertical. And the last vertical is the community fridge. It just doesn't garner any revenue, but that's the one that keeps us coming every day.
These are things that have evolved over time. You have said yes to opportunities or made these things come to pass as you decided that you were the one to solve a problem with your business. And so now you've got these 5 verticals of business. How do you treat them kind of like their own little categories that have systems of their own? How interconnected and how much of your business and your people do they share? How do you manage all 5 of those things in a way that keeps them working together, but by themselves, you know where they are in process, like how it could be better or how it's succeeding, so you don't kind of get everything mixed up?
Yeah, so for cost reduction purposes, the product that we sell interconnects. We try to keep as close to the same menu as possible for the cafe menu, for the brunch menu. And so the goods, we may present it differently for each vertical. So, smashed avocado toast on the cafe menu may look a little different than it does on the brunch menu, may look a little different than it does on the catering menu. But at the end of the day, the cost of goods need to be the same. The skill set of how we make it needs to be the same. So it can't be too many deviations in the product itself. Where it does kind of drift off, where the difference is communication. They are two totally different customers. For example, our catering customers for Department of Education and for the city, they have a very fixed budget when they present to us, audit request. So we have to make adjustments according to that. Their delivery is quite different because they're a different type of customer than the customer that'll come into the cafe, because we're either delivering to corporate offices or event spaces and things like that. So we have to present. So those processes would be somewhat different because the customer is different. But at the end of the day, to save cost, we just are trying to leverage, especially now since cost of goods are so incredibly high. We're just trying to leverage the things that we believe folks will enjoy, we'll leverage those across those different spectrums. So someone from the catering order, we're not really from catering side doing a bunch of lattes and, espresso drinks. So we have to make our boxes of Joe look sexy.
Right. Yeah.
Because because that'll be their offering. But, we also vend a lot. So Afropunk, we do Afropunk. We've done that a few times over the years. Again, we'll have to present a little differently for those venues, maybe have different price points for those events, but across the spectrum, same products, a lot of the same process. I'll use the same staff mostly. I have a third party that I'll use for the big catering gigs. So for catering, 300 to 500 people, there is a team that I'll use outside of our core team for that. But, try to keep it as cost effective and as streamlined as possible.
Have you ever had to walk back any commitments that you experimented with? Because it seems like you're all about following these opportunities. And so far, what we've been talking about, I imagine, are the ones that have stuck around and been successful and that you want to nurture. But has there been any times where you've said, well, we tried to do that and it turned out that it wasn't us, or it didn't work out?
For sure. So I do have this philosophy. Like, I say yes to everything. People will call me, I'm sure as you and everyone else who cafe owners, just, being in business, you are a target for business. Having a business, having a brick and mortar attracts business. So folks will come to me asking the most random things, and I'm always into it.
Oh, okay.
I'm like always into it. So I'll try something, and especially something that I really like, or I almost never say no. I think I need to start learning how to say no about certain things, even if it comes to, you know. But so yes, there have been many flops, many things that I had to walk back. A lot of things also in the marketing space. I feel like that area I haven't quite gotten right. I've had these really brilliant ideas to do like barista under pressure. So I would do like these 30-minute spots where I'm like asking baristas the trivia questions while they're making drinks, and have to do the drinks and answer the questions in 30 seconds and can't get wrong. So I did a few series of that, and then everybody's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Things like that. And, trying to stay connected with like what TikTok and everybody is doing. I've had these brilliant ideas of taking I love watching recipe shows. Like taking these TikTok recipes and like remixing them and then putting them on our menu. So if someone is making a duck panini, I'm off finding how to procure duck and remaking their videos and trying to launch it and put it on our menu. So I've had to walk back a lot of those things. And also some of the initiatives with the food insecurity that just was too much of a liability for our business. For example, our community fridge takes any leftover food we have. We try to be as zero waste as possible, especially concerning food and the need. So if there's anything that we have, but we also get so many donations from our community, big stores, everything around, but clothing. So we have a little shelter near the community fridge that we were going to start making that a proposition for our community where people can do clothes drop-offs and all of that. But that was a horrible idea.
Oh,
When you have a restaurant next to people dumping piles of clothes and things like that.
oh, yeah.
So we had to limit it just to donations of canned foods and things for the fridge. But over the years, I mean, plenty of things that I had to walk back that I've tried, even menu ideas, drink ideas, staffing ideas, a lot of mistake with staffing, trying to structure the cafe like I might structure my corporate job wasn't always smart just because it worked in that environment. In that type of structure doesn't mean that it would work here. Like the level of management.
Oh, what do you?
Yeah, like a good example would be level of management. Like in my 9 to 5, you would have an employee, a supervisor, manager, a director. You have all these, or you'll have little silos of you do this. You make widget 1, you make widget 2, and very little cross training and thinking, okay, well, you can build up expertise by having someone just do this one thing. A good example currently, I have a barista who also was a cook. And when he was first hired, he's like, I am done with the kitchen. And he was a phenomenal barista, but fell in love with our menu. And now there's some days he'll split his shift. Some days he's a cook, some days he's a barista. I've never done that before. I've always had like, okay, you be superstar at this role. And you see that a lot in corporate America. You have your silos of this is what you do, be a superstar at that one thing. But just having the mindset of, walk some of these things back and figure out what's best for the team, the guest, and the cafe overall.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that because the coffee shop environment these days, there's always been this idea that we want you to just focus on one thing and be, like you said, the superstar of like the espresso machine. But if these days it feels like people are more generalists and we have these highly trained teams that are cross-trained across different all the verticals that you have in your business. So it might be the kitchen, it might be, going to the farmer's market, working the bar. And it's necessary these days. I mean, costs are one thing, the wages going up is another. There's all sorts of things to consider to have a highly trained, lean team of people. And you seem to have a really, I don't want to say it's luck because I feel like there's such cultivated intuition that you have with people based on what you're telling me, how you hire people that seem to work out, which if you're going to ask an entrepreneur in coffee what the number one quote unquote pain point is, they're going to say, oh, people. Finding staff or quote unquote good people. When you had to start over after COVID and you had to almost like reconstruct the magic of the first crew in a way, what did you walk away from that you believe is the sort of evergreen principle that's been sort of like the secret to your success so far with staff past that point? How can we attract and keep great staff?
I think you have to be a good staff yourself and remember that you are part of the team and you're not, a team. Think of a team as a circle and you're in that circle and not ahead of. You have to be good. I always feel like my job is to make sure they have what they need. The team has what they need. And their job is to make sure the guests have what they need. And then the guests feedback into us. But I have been extremely blessed, I would say, with having like incredible, through all the iterations that we've gone through over the years. That first wave of the first 4 years was amazing. But having come back from COVID after closing that 9 months and coming back, it was extremely difficult because I couldn't keep staff. And I was, the salaries I believed was very, very competitive. So it wasn't that. In fact, one of the baristas was like, oh, you really gonna pay me? She's like, I just took a shot with this. She countered an offer and I accepted the counter. And she's like, I just did a shoot my shot type of thing. It wasn't salary. And it was around that time, if you remember, when everyone's like, oh, everybody's lazy. Nobody wants to work. Everyone still wants to sit around. And that narrative is so wrong. It's so wrong. What it was, what I saw, what I observed is you had a period of time that allowed people to follow their dreams. So during the blackout phase of that COVID brought, it gave folks somewhere between 6, 9, 12, or even 18 months to pursue different things that they wanted, that they were really, really passionate about. And you can double that when you come to New York. So New Yorkers and the fire in their belly, and they started to remember why I moved to New York in the first place and all these things that I wanted to do, especially in hospitality. Everyone has all these other goals and dreams and talents. Like it's just a pool of talents in coffee shops all over the world. I mean, singers and writers. And because of that, and opportunities was coming for them. I remember one barista in particular, she was just phenomenal. She was just a phenomenal employee. She could not get to work on time. Everything else, but she struggled. And, I learned later that she was studying to become a personal trainer. She tried to take her test like 4 times over the years. And when she came back from COVID, she had done her most studying at that time. So she felt the most prepared. So she would be up all night and training and doing all whatever, that she was doing. And she finally passed her test and she started getting clients. And just the time management thing wasn't working out. But, that's the mindset. Like, you can't think that the reason that we're having these issues with staffing is I think it's so easy to just bypass it or excuse it as, these folks are lazy, like staff, they don't want to work. And that's the case. It is because there actually are many of the times, of course, there's extremes to everything, but many of the times is that they're being met with all these different opportunities. And I just think that we have been super fortunate to have in all the different phases of the business, really good staff. The team, just phenomenal. Our line cook, our chef, just really phenomenal because our goal, a lot of times folks who come here to work, they are drawn to the community fridge. They're drawn to the community efforts that we do here. They're drawn to the slow pace because we're not a high volume, high pace cafe. The high volume will come a lot of times on the catering side and when we're vending and being able to have the peaks and valleys like, oh, we've got to hustle like crazy to get these catering orders out. But then we get to sit and chat with a customer that'll come in. As a business owner for revenue, I would love for it to be crazy high volume all the time. But I appreciate when it's not because we are truly, truly building memories. And that is one of the best parts here for me. And every person who works here always have somebody that they vibe with. Even the back of the house, they go outside and they're like having conversations with guests and, building these relationships. And I just love that. And I think that's what makes people sticky. And that's why we've been fortunate to have a really nice team.
I love that. Well said. The job itself is rarely the thing that'll keep people in a job. It's what it represents.
That's right.
And in who they're working with.
That's a fact.
Your extension beyond the cafe in terms of those relationships, I mean, you're now kind of a mentor to other entrepreneurs and have had the opportunity to inspire people. You've been recognized as such on many occasions, your business and you as an individual. And I'm curious how that sits with you when people identify you, maybe, and now I'm one of them saying it here, when people identify you as a mentor to others and having an example to other professionals in your area, how do you take that responsibility and how have you managed it and used that over the years?
I think it's hard to receive that acumen. I think because I feel like I'm still climbing. I think I have a very long way to go. I think I'm just a baby in this industry. I think I have so much more to learn. I do hear, and I'm grateful for all the generous flattery and the generous, favorable things that people say about us and our business and what we do. But, I have goals that I hadn't met yet. I would have certainly thought by this time I would be in multiple locations. Besides our outposts, we're still a single location. There's certain things that I, would have kind of in the back of my mind was believing that roasting might be a part of our business model at some point. So there are some things like I'm not, Bushwick Grind Cafe is not really thought of necessarily in the hardcore coffee industry, the people that I fan out on as one of those cafes, because we do have this diversity of business that we do. Like, are you a restaurant? Are you a coffee shop? Are you a caterer? Are you a non-for-profit? Can't tell you how many times people have asked me that. Like, are you a non-for-profit? So because we do so much, I think, because we're just not alone concentrating on specialty coffee. Sometimes I do feel like I missed the mark on certain things industry wide. I remember like I would never just certain events and, not missing SCA, not just certain panels or certain things being very, very engrossed in, even just keeping up with some of the, coffee industry advances and or having to pay sometimes a little below that because maybe all the resources aren't there to do maybe all the upgrades that I might want to do. Or so, I do appreciate the acumen, but I do feel like I'm still working on it or maybe faking it till I make it a little bit. I am proud of what the team has accomplished. I am most proud of these moments. Like I will, as you could tell, I'm a chatty girl. I can go all day, but the moments are the things that hit for me. But I thank you. And I graciously appreciate any favorable thing anyone says about what we're working to do here.
It's funny because when you're in the midst of the work, it's really hard to see from inside what has been built, right? So you can accept it and be like, wow, okay, that's what we're doing and keep going. Equally so, like anybody who builds something, I think, who's listening, you can choose to believe the positive side of it. That is, I'm doing a lot better than sometimes it feels I'm doing. And people tend to send it my way. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand this or you don't understand that. And I'm just as guilty as the next person. My wife is an artist and she'll do that with her art as well. Like, it's not that great. And I'm like, I mean, okay, but that's you looking at it. So I love that, this is similar. You've created something beautiful and are in the midst of it. And I think that's what people find beautiful as well, is the rootedness, but the incompleteness of the thing. It's still living, it's still growing. That's what we all want, I think. We want to be on the move in doing something like you are. So as we wrap up here, I think a good thing to ask would be speaking to other entrepreneurs out there who are saying yes to things, who are wanting to make a difference and take the next step in their community, and they're inspired by your example. What's your advice to them in terms of how to focus their energies, maybe manage their energies and build as you have built? What would you say is your advice to them?
Well, I'm whimsical, so I like just do it and then prioritize. But the smarter thing is prioritize and then decide to do it. So you can either go to, but I think that if you're in a position to make a great impact to either your team, your family, your community, and that yes is not going to be harmful to your business, take away, because there is the notion of stacking the scale too much and just burning yourself out because you said yes too many times. But the yeses, like these small gestures of saying things that people come to you and you are able to inspire them because they're asking you to collaborate with them or to try something, sell something in your shop. Can I have something on your retail wall? Can you try this thing for a little bit of time? I would say, like lean into the yeses because they could take you to journeys. They could take you on avenues and swim lanes that you did not know that you would feel comfortable in, that you had a lot of room in that lane. We're still exploring. If you're an entrepreneur, it's really hard not to focus like on the plan, the business plan, have these things. So when other things come in, that's a question for you to say yes or no to. It might feel like a disruption. But I think if you look at it as a welcomed opportunity, because you can also say no at some point or start. I like if you start something, finish it. But when it's done, you could decide not to continue that thing. But at least you tried it. It may have stretched you. I would have never become an MWBE certified firm if I didn't apply for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, for example, and was accepted into that program, which was one of the smartest things that I did. And it opened so many other doors. But then I didn't even know that existed. And these things can be taxing, can be difficult. And I do understand that as an entrepreneur, we already have so many balls in the air. But sometimes what's more, one more? Let's learn how to juggle. If it's 8 balls, why not 9? Let's just do it.
That's right. Yeah. While you're running a triathlon or something, right?
Why not? It's just a ball in the air.
Man, well, you seem to be doing a really great job with the juggling act that you've got going on over there. Kymme, I really appreciate you being on the show and all of your work. Where can we learn more about you online? And also, where can we visit you when we are in Brooklyn?
Yes, and the balls do fall from the air from time to time. So I just had to say that. But the juggling continues. So Kim Williams, Davis, Bushwick Grind Cafe. We're Bushwick Grind everywhere on the interweb. So Instagram, Facebook, all of the things. We are Bushwick Grind. Our website also Bushwick Grind, on Yelp, on Google, all of those things. And we are located 63 Whipple Street, Brooklyn, New York. We are in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn, not Bushwick, Brooklyn, even though the name is Bushwick Grind. And that largely is because I like to tell the story. I'll do it real quick because we're wrapping up, but it's because of my three Bushwick mothers. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother were all Bushwick girls. They all lived in Bushwick, Brooklyn at one time in their lives. And now I live in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And the name of the shop, and they were grinders. They were workers. They were hustlers. So Bushwick Grind really is an ode to them. But we're located in East Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Well, I hope that you really enjoyed that conversation with Kim. I really enjoy the way that she has approached taking on different business opportunities in a way that explores the possibilities of what her business can participate in, and the way she's taken on these opportunities to then just really pay attention to see if it's working, and then, dialing it back if it's not working. And then if it is working, boy, what a depth it adds to the business. And I think you can see the impact and the depth that Kim has managed to build with this cafe over the years, now almost 10 years of Bushwick Grind, while working another job, like day job, is astounding. And if Kim can do this and still manage all of these other areas, then this really should inspire us to say, what are some ways that we can look to the opportunities that are presented to our businesses and allow them to take their own shape? Give our teams and our crew, our group of people that have gathered around our coffee concept, more freedom, more reign to create and co-create with us. And another element of Kim's story is being able to have great people that do great work. You heard her praising so many different people that contributed to what Bushwick Grind is today and what they've been able to become and accomplish. And this is the kind of thing I wish for all of you. And so I'm really happy to have had Kim on the show. Thank you so much, Kim, for being a great example and sharing with us on this episode. And if you're interested in more information about Bushwick Grind, you can go and follow them on Instagram at Bushwick Grind. You can also find them on YouTube at Bushwick Grind Cafe and on their website, bushwickgrind.com. Their address in Brooklyn is 63 Whipple Street. So when you're out that way, definitely look them up. Big thanks to Kim once more for being on the show. Now, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback for me about this episode, go ahead and email Chris at keystotheshop.com. That's also where you can reach out for Keys to the Shop consulting and coaching, or to inquire about the key holder coaching groups coming up very soon. Again, that email, Chris at keystotheshop.com. And with that, that is the end of our episode, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me for this Founder Friday, the month of February 2024. Really appreciate all of you. I hope you're inspired by Kim's episode and all of her work. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, share the show with your friends and on social media. That really helps out. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.